Are there certain exercises specifically that you would offer someone who wants to improve their sexual performance?
So there's so many ways to answer this question. Sexual performance definitely have some answers. I also have answers for like if you're looking to become sexually appealing to various kinds of archetypes of people.
Okay.
We could just say what would you like to look like in your body. There's also another thing. I'm not sure if you want to talk about any of this, you could just be like, shut up, just answer my
it's
question.
Great. I love it.
Some of the stuff is like if a female would like to look more sexually appealing to the average male or to a male of some sort, there is often a large discordance between what females themselves find aesthetically preferable versus to what guys find aesthetically preferable. The easiest way to illustrate this is you take a look at the difference in the morphology of high-tier runway models and adult film actresses tailored for male pleasure. You know, these people look nothing alike. Where is the daylight here?
Yeah.
So there's lots to say about kind of how exercise can modify all those things. But for sexual performance, I would say that various forms of very deep squats, various forms of deficit deadlifts, which means you pick up the bar from kind of lower than the ground.
Okay.
Big range of motion. And various forms, especially of various hip thrusts and glute thrusts, are a very direct way to make sure that your thrusting ability has enough muscle mass behind it, and that, you know, the thrusting itself now has a big range. If you take a really large muscle mass that's been trained with these compound exercises, sets of anywhere between 5 repetitions per exercise per set, all the way to even sets of 30, the muscle grows. And now, if it has to do, let's say where I suppose we're allowed to talk about positions and stuff.
Absolutely.
This is crazy. I've never been on a podcast. Like, usually I just have to shut that part of my brain up. It typically doesn't work anyway. It just comes out awkwardly as usual. If you are a guy on his knees in bed, girl on her knees, doggy style, there's like, you know, gravity doesn't have to be overcome. So you just don't have to thrust that hard. And you can use your hands too.
Yeah.
And if, you know, you get the motion of the ocean bed frame moving properly, it just kind of rebounds half the work for you. So if you exercise doing those exercises often or enough to get the situation improved, that's such a small percentage of your maximum abilities. You can kind of do that indefinitely, and it's just not hard.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can deadlift as a male, if you can deadlift, you know, 225 pounds for sets of 15 from a deficit, there's not any kind of real world sex that's going to challenge you, because if you pushed as hard as you could, like hurt the woman or something, she'd fly off of you. So that ability to be high endurance, you don't even have to train endurance for that, because if your muscles are big and strong enough, it's such a small fraction of their maximum ability that they're just barely trying.
Right.
And so in addition to that, if you train in those exercises and get those glute muscles especially bigger and stronger, you can be in a situation where if you have to do some very hard thrusting, because let's be honest, sometimes that's what's required, or that's what is preferred.
Correct.
I like to call it, this is a disgusting term, but like rhinoceros sex. Like, it's like a lot of females of reproductive age, maybe it's with gentlemen of my body type exclusively, but they prefer to be not in a, well, all's fair in love and erotica, but very heavy downward pressure, being grabbed and pushed down and more or less smothered and hit up real hard. Is this something doesn't appeal to me particularly, but something about that, just like jungle, very evolutionarily old, kind of just like alpha male, primal, heavy, he's on me, I can't move. Amazing. And so that kind of stuff you might need some power for. And then if you have big, strong glutes, you can always do 5 or 6 thrusts in a row that are psychotic. And she's like, that's it, cash me out.
Yeah.
So, and you can cycle between heavy thrusting and light thrusting, heavy thrusting. You just really have a toggle. And that's because if you take a car that has a maximum speed limit of 5 miles per hour, it's just a really tiny engine, it can go 1 mile an hour a long time.
Sure.
Go 5 miles an hour and then no more. But if you have a car that goes 160 miles per hour to maximum, you can go 1 mile an hour if you want. You can go 30, you can go 40, you can go 100. So being really, really strong and more muscular than you would typically expect can give you a huge range in sexual performance. And range is a big deal, because not everyone likes the same thing. You got to be ready to do that or do that or do that. Does that part make sense?
And variety is so important, right?
Super.
I think, in people who are in long-term relationships, they get stuck doing the same thing over and over again.
Sure.
And say you're not lifting right now and you start going to the gym, you start lifting, and now you're like, hey, I can try this different thing. And now your partner's really turned on and wants sex more often because you've tried something different.
100%. Yeah. The other thing I would say is there is a good deal of an ability to train the abdominal musculature. Again, probably training it for muscle size and relative strength endurance. So sets of 10, 15, 20, all the way up to 30 in resisted abdominal exercises, various crunches, various sit-ups, machine crunches, etc. You can also do some planks and isometric work, but remember, sex generally isn't isometric, it's dynamic.
Yeah.
So having a strong abdominal ability, especially both from the perspective of pulling your rib cage down, but also bringing your hips closer to yourself. So like hanging leg raises, straight leg raises, those exercises and having that abdominal ability, the ability to contract your glutes for the thrusting motion, coupled with the abdominal ability to scoop your pelvis up and in. Oh yeah, that's going to get you. And especially if you're man on bottom, woman on top, yeah, you can pin your legs and thrust with your glutes, sure. But also the scoop motion is a big deal then. And sometimes in various situations, you can't really like prop your legs. You have to just do all core.
Yeah.
And then you don't want to be the guy that's like, hey, listen,
We got to move a little.
I can't do this anymore, right? So that's a big deal. And I would say another thing is if you train overall body musculature, you're pulling muscles, you're pushing muscles, being able to do, pull downs and rows and push-ups, you can prop your body in a variety of positions that can make it long-term sustainable. So like if it's like, I don't even know what this position's called, man on top, woman on bottom. Is there a name for that?
Man on top, woman on bottom.
Missionary?
It's missionary, right?
Is that it? I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're the guy, if you're not able to prop yourself up on extended arms and keep doing the deed because your upper body's starting to get weak or fatigued, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But if you're really good at doing push-ups and bench press and stuff, you can prop there kind of indefinitely. And that's really a big deal. So I think overall general whole body fitness has to be mentioned because I don't want to just say, oh, it's just the glutes and the abs and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Like if you have whole, strong, endurant body from resistance training for sets of probably 10 to 30 repetitions per set, hard, multiple sets, multiple times a week, you'll start looking the part too, which is cool. Then you really are making sure that whatever limits there are to your sex and ability to have it are purely creative and direct tissue related in nature.
Yeah.
And your body's good to go for whatever.
Yeah. No, I think that's so great. In terms of your personal experience, I mean, you've had a different...
N of one.
N of one. Have you found that your abilities in the gym has translated into more variety, more fun, more excitement in the bedroom?
These are intense questions.
Are they?
I love it. This is intense. Okay. Yeah. So there's definitely stuff when you get much stronger that you can do this kind of violates the laws of physics. Do you know what a standing 69 is?
I can visualize.
Like I pick you up, I flip you over, I curl you to my face.
Okay.
And you do whatever the hell you want down there, but your boy's up here standing.
Standing.
Yeah. Like I can do that.
Yeah.
It's insanely difficult for most people to do because they're like, I'm holding 100 and some odd pound objects, but that's not that heavy if you go heavy enough in the gym.
Right.
You can do exotic positions. I certainly, because of my muscularity, can't do any kind of bendy stuff. That's completely out of the question. Because of my, so I weigh like 225, 230 pounds. I will say that for a variety of females, not everyone's into this. And I'm like otherwise grotesquely unattractive. So all the caveats here, I'm not some kind of sex god or something. I barely know my way around. But it seems to be that if you're of a sufficient bulk, size, weight, and you have kind of broad shouldered upper body, I also have the benefit of having like a whole body of hair. There's a certain like animalistic drive that you can appeal to. I think because sexual partners can recognize, both if they've been with you for a long time or if it's a bit of a newer thing, there are a variety of feelings they have in regards to sex. They're maybe a little bit taboo, but definitely a part of the equation. Is if all is consensual, there's nothing wrong with them. I think that a variety of females like to play at the borderland of their feeling of safety.
Yeah.
I think that if you feel completely 10 trillion% safe with your man, is he really a man? Does he give off man vibes anymore? Sure. But that's a different thing in and of itself.
Sure.
Now, you're not going to like look at a gorilla in the zoo and be like, that's it, I'm submitting my body to him. It's so risque. Like he'll probably just kill you. I don't think he sees you as a reproductive female. So that's too much.
Right.
But somewhere where you see a dude and you're like,
Yeah.
He doesn't look safe, but he's kind and he looks at you that special way. And you're like, I feel safe, but I don't.
Yeah.
This is it. This is the thing. And if you have a physical presence and you're jacked, even if you consensually
Yes.
grab a woman by her waist, just a little tight, she's going to feel feelings that are like, oh boy, I'm being held by a man, not a child, not a boy, a man. That does things.
Yeah.
And so being jacked, not to all women. Some women are like, if you're a hipster skinny dude, that's it. You're the best.
That's
which is dope. Like,
good for them, yeah.
If I was into dudes, that's kind of like dudes I would be into. But if you are a woman who at some time in her monthly cycle, sometime in her life, or sometime always, is finding that she's attracted to bigger, stronger, manlier guys, if you're a guy, becoming more of that archetype leaning in is a big deal. And I also like, if you are a guy and you can't lean back on the fact that you're physically dominating in a space with another female, sometimes it's tough to find your surfboard of manhood on which to base your confidence, on which to base your sexual moves, because a variety of sexual interactions. You talk about foreplay and stuff like that. Yeah. Dope. Like actually just the urology part, in and out. That's all we do. So get this foreplay out of here, you lewd asshole. A lot of foreplay and a lot of the sensual interaction in sex is an ability to convey confidence, not cockiness, not rudeness, but like, at least on the male side, I'm here fully accepting of who I am. Mm-hmm. I have like no discomfort whatsoever with my naked body, which is like, this is a gift I've always had, even though I'm not in good shape. Like if like naked videos leaked of me on YouTube, which good luck finding them, but I don't know where they are. I hope nobody sees them. It's awful. But if the videos leaked, they'd be like, oh my God, that's your naked body. I'd be like, yeah, I got nothing to hide. Yeah. But if you can feel that way and also have a sense of like when you're seen with incrementally less clothing, that she's going to like what she discovers, it can really be a big deal for manhood confidence, sexual confidence. And that confidence, nice that you have it, guy. Good job. Congratulations. Another male privilege. But also it really, in many cases, the female feeds off of that. Because if you are with a man who is clearly not confident in his presence, gee whiz, does that dry up a lot of girls? I'm no girl, but that's what I've heard. Like if a guy comes in and no matter what his vibe is, he's secure in his vibe, man, that's hot.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if he comes in with the physique that screams unequivocally, I'm a man, not only does she hear the screams, so to speak, off that physique, but you hear your own, oh shit, here I am, I'm a fucking gorilla.
Yeah.
And then the vibe is hers and yours at the same time. And she's like, gee, I'm really in this bedroom with like a wild animal, but he's polite and kind and asks me what I like in bed. Pff, that's it. Circle me squared. We're good. Yeah. Whereas if you're a guy and you're like, oh, I don't look so good, I should be exercising. The shirt reveal where the guy's like, he takes his shirt off and the romance novels one was like, oh my God. If your shirt reveal's like, ta-da, and she's like, oh, I thought you were like a fitness person. You're like, I start crying. That's good for no one. So outside of the technical abilities, like pick people up, it's cool to be in a body that's like maybe more masculine than required.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being in a female body that's, I don't know if you're familiar with the term, it's a term, the bimbo, not an derogatory term. It's like the extreme version of a 50s pinup girl, like teeny tiny waist, big hips, gigantic titties, big lips, like just hypersexualized female. Like that's the equivalent on the other side. The other side is like bodybuilder dude. When you're like, whoa, that's a lot. That's too much for many people. But at the very least, the closer you get to that, to preference, the more you can be like, hey, I really feel like a sexual person.
Right.
And that's, I think, important for everyone to go around. And of course, obviously, the last one, the easy one is outside of being able to put your weight down on someone and have them feel a heavy weight. Like, yeah, like, I've squatted like 500 pounds for a set of 10 before. There's not the limit to how, am I allowed to swear?
You can swear.
Every now and again?
Yeah.
Okay. Some of this sounds strange in technical terminology, so let's just put it bluntly. There's a limit to how hard I can fuck you, but your pelvis will break way before that limit. And that's nice to know that if she's like harder, you're like, okay, you better,
sure?
you better call EMS before you just tire out. You're like, I guess I couldn't do it. But yeah, it's cool to have a body that can like way overqualified to be putting the sex down, basically.
Yeah.
Because you don't need all this shit for sex. Good God, people would do a third less muscle, but it's nice to have extra.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you bring up a good point about confidence. And I think you can be confident at any size. And I think that's a huge part of what draws people to each other, right? Like you don't have to look like you. You can look like an average guy.
You'd be much better off looking like an average guy.
And be really confident. And that's going to be a huge turn on.
Yes.
And I think that's really important to bring out because
Yes.
I think there's a huge component of that's missing in a lot of people who are feeling insecure sexually, and that's not helping, right? I think that's a huge part of it for both men and women. I think it's even a turnoff for men to be with a woman who's like, oh, do I look okay? It's can you leave the lights off? Like, I don't think that's a turn on for men either.
I can tell you categorically it's not.
Right.
The thing is, like, men are so hyper driven to have the sex.
Yeah.
That for them, it's like they'll overlook, no problem, no confidence, no problem. But it certainly is a huge difference between, oh, I had sex versus like, dude, that shit was ravenous. I don't even know. Should I call her again now? Like, I miss her already. You girl with some confidence will do that second one for you. A girl with obvious signs of she doesn't want you to look. At some point, like for me personally, I'm not usually able to continue on in sex with someone like that. I want to back it up and just cuddle and talk and just chit chat,
make you feel comfortable,
establish some comfort. Not even at that point so that we can have sex, just because like the sex time has passed. If you're not coming to me in a way that you feel like this is the real me, let's have it. I don't want to I feel like I'm doing you a disservice by pouncing on you at this time. Like, I want you to have the greatest time possible, which is such an important thing. If I just want me to have a great time, I got 2 hands for that shit. 2 hands and a VR headset. Am I right? Anyone? No one? But if, I'm with a woman nowadays, my wife, like, priority number 1 is she's having the best possible time. I mean, there's a whole deep pride associated in an art and an approach and a system with how to pleasure women. Like, that's what you really do if you're at some level of sexual expression as a man. Like, once you've banged enough random people, you're like, yeah, that's nice. Let's cultivate something real special with the next person I'm with. And if they're not like in that place where they can be confident, rule number 1 is you try to say very kind, gentle things very slowly and have a deep conversation to bring confidence out of them. You can do that in a lot of cases. And then they're like, who gives a shit what I said earlier? Let's do it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just not that time. But if you're a guy and you're relatively average of body fat, body distribution, etc., or a girl, and you, for a few months, take your fitness a bit more seriously, burn a little bit of fat, build a little bit of muscle, and feel your curves a little bit more as a girl, get your swole on a little bit as a guy, just a little bit. If you feel like Friday night you're going out to get you some sex, right? In whatever appropriate way, that right after you get out of the shower, you look yourself in the mirror, kind of sort yourself out. If that Friday night, after a few weeks or months of fitness commitment, you look at yourself and you go, okay, damn, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm looking fresh. You're every single thing from, I hate to use the term, but seduction or pickup or whatever, however that works, attraction.
Yeah.
Everything from the generation of attraction all the way to the culmination of the sexual episode on both sides, male and female, just goes better. Exclusively on you vibing with your own body better. Now, of course, that body also comes with better physical abilities, better erectile abilities, better flexibility, mobility, endurance. And so all of a sudden it's like, gee whiz, if sex is kind of important to me, the physique matters. And it doesn't matter. I really don't want, because like a lot of folks will see this podcast and they'll look at my weird shaped head and my muscles and all. They'll be like, okay, this idiot thinks we all need to be professional bodybuilders to have sex. Got it. Weirdo. I'm not even into that sort of thing. I'm not saying that at all. I'm way on the other end of like, if I remember like, I'm 5'6". And I had close female friends tell me that once I got heavier than 180 pounds, like anything more is just exotic and no longer as attractive as I was at 180. And I totally feel that. I don't give a shit. I just want to be jacked.
Right.
But so what I'm saying is you don't have to be a jacked rhinoceros picking up standing 69 people, but just a little bit more fit than you're used to is an interesting thing to play with. Because if you get a little bit more fit and your sex goes through the roof, you're going to be like, I wonder if I get a little bit more fit still, would something happen? And a lot of times you get a little bit more fit and you're like, nah, it's just linear now, no big deal, it's not worth it. But a lot of the times people are having a certain kind of sex or able to attract certain kinds of sexual partners or able to exude a certain amount of confidence that they assume is just like a baseline that just never changes. I must say, and I want to keep this as politically correct as possible because I mean it in the best possible way, especially for females, what months and months and years of a fitness commitment that radically transformed the female physique can do for her confidence and definitely for her ability to attract a broader range of sexual partners is massive. Massive. Because, I'm being a little comedic and sarcastic when I say the following, but most guys are real fucking simple. When it comes to dating,
Yeah.
when it comes to relationships of depth, guys are complex, guys are nuanced. It's not the same game. But when it comes at least to the sexual part, at face value, even just hookups, if you are absolutely stunningly beautiful and you have the personality of just a total, just awesome, awesome person people want to hang around with, but you live in a certain body that's a physical shape that is not conventionally attractive, there are absolutely guys that will be interested in you genuinely. Mm-hmm. But your pool of potential candidates shrinks substantially. It's kind of fucked up, but if all of a sudden you're in a body that's just like 10 pounds more muscular, 15 pounds less body fat, but your distribution was such that it mostly came from your waist, you can just like quadruple the number of guys in any given circumstance to be like, yeah, I'll take a shot at that title. And if you're looking for intimate, deeper relations that aren't just sex, your candidacy pool for guys that consider you attractive enough to even allow that kind of relationship into their head is now like 3 or 4 times greater. And so I don't like that. I don't like it at all. I don't like the fact that if you are, let's say, substantially overweight as a female, that like guys will be friends with you and they'll be chill with you, but they won't enter into sexual liaisons with you or forget relationships because that's downstream of that for many people. Mm-hmm. It's messed up. It's fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But because it's also statistically true, as a female who has it in her power to do something about her body only if she wants, I'm just here to tell you that, yeah, personality is the most important thing for long-term relationships by a long shot.
Sure.
But if you want that entry point, being in a body that's universally more physically attractive is, unfortunately, realistically, an enormous unlock. It's like if you talk to girls and you're like, listen, ladies, I'm trying to meet as many women as possible. I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. I'm trying to settle down. How important is my raw income level? They could tell you whatever it doesn't matter. It's your personality. Shut up, Linda. Okay, here are my tax returns. And she's like, I think I'm wet. This is your real numbers? Like, this is just taxes too, that total income. So like, it matters, right?
Yeah.
We don't want it to matter. Like, we've all seen Aladdin. He was just a poor boy and she was a I was raised on that shit. I've seen Aladdin 1,000 times.
That's so good.
Right? Like, but like, that's not how it's supposed to be or whatever, but it is. The other one about males is like height. Like, if you're 6'3", you could do a lot of wrong. And the girl's like, yeah, whatever.
He's tall.
Let's do it. It's tall.
Yeah.
Tall and wealthy, or tall and of high income, eventually wealthy prospects. Like, a guy comes up to you at the bar and you're like, whoa, what's up? And he's like, oh, I'm just like, between jobs. You're like, okay. He comes up to you and you're like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm just looking surgical neuroscience last year in residency. You're like, what was your name again? It's a difference.
Absolutely.
And so just the same way, I think a lot of females are really attuned to that. But because if you're much bigger or much smaller as a guy, for females, typically, it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
Even if a guy has some extra pounds, if he's holding it like he's a big dude, most girls are because just a bigger guy. They don't need you to be stripped up, 8 6-packs.
Yeah.
Most girls don't care about that. And guys don't care about 6-packs, but they do care about relatively small waist, hourglass figure. If you can get yourself closer to an hourglass figure, it's just going to convert, for lack of a better term. Again, I am not endorsing that.
Yeah.
It's just the reality. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's very true. Like, I think someone asked me on a podcast, like, what do you think men should do to attract female partners? Like, well, there's certain things you can't change, right? You can't change your height. Mm-hmm. You can change your income if you try, but everyone, depends on what they're working with. But you can be funny. And I was like, if you're a funny guy, like, you're way more attractive. And so I think there's a lot, unfortunately, more at a man's disposal to make him attractive in terms of personality than there is at a woman.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think the opposite is true for long-term relationships. And this is a thing that attractive women, from my experience and viewing the literature briefly, really get themselves into a bind with, they'll like, I've known a lot of women over the years, all great people, by the way, but they will invest substantially into their physical attractiveness because they kind of had a leg up to begin with. And then they were like, fuck, this is just like, I can talk to any guy in the world and he generally wants to talk to me more. I'm going to lead in. And so they're fit, they're like fashionable, makeup, the whole thing. And they date tons of guys, and they have a real serious problem keeping a guy for a long time. And they've never really thought about the fact that while attractiveness physically is the universal entry point for relationships with men, it only gets you past into the foyer.
Yeah.
And after that, you're just like, so what are you up to? And he's like, banging you is fun. A week later, a guy who's, I don't want to say worth it, but a high quality man that many people aspire to be with is going to be like, yeah, so this thing you have going with your awesome body and great sex, I love it. The thing is, I can get some other version of that any Tuesday night at the bar, no problem. Up here, you're not funny, you're not cool, you're not smart, you never pursued any academic characteristics. So like when I first met my wife and I saw her body in real life, I was like, God damn, is it legal to be that thick? Bitch, somebody send this girl to jail, you feel me?
Yeah.
Amazing, just a 10 out of 10.
Right.
But like the fact that she at the time was in medical school, she had an undergraduate and master's degree in chemistry, had taken a level of mathematics successfully in college that I never even got to. I was like, yo, this is a wife boner alert. Like I wasn't thinking about like, oh, well, you know, this will be fun for sex. But then, and then I found out over time, not that long of a time, that she was super cool and like hilarious. I was like, that's it, wife, this bitch is in. And that was that. Like, it was just not that complicated. But I married my wife exclusively for non-sexual, non-body qualities. And I tell her that all the time. If she decides to blow up 300 pounds, yo, like, I don't give a shit. Sex is not that big of a part of my life. You don't get married for sex. Now, sex is an integral, excellent, highly valuable part of a good marriage or a good long-term relationship or even good dating. But a lot of times women that overinvest in their physical attractiveness are like wondering why guys don't stick around. Well, you never invested in any of the stuff that sticks around. So that while the guy that maybe isn't the wealthiest, isn't the tallest, isn't the most handsome, isn't the best shape, once you date him for a few dates to where you realize he's like really funny and really cool, girl, you ain't leaving. You waiting for that ring. That's it. It's over. Whereas for girls, they think that same thing applies. Like, I'm hot. I get the guys to date me. Once they start dating me for a while, they're not going to be able to let go. Like, yeah, they will. And if you're not investing into humor, into education, into just banter, like, do you know how to talk to people? I've been around plenty of attractive women that I'm like, so, yeah. And they're like, yeah. And you're like, okay, I'm going to, what time is it? I haven't out of here.
Like, what are we going to talk about?
Like, are we going to get to the act and then I leave? Or is there no act? So you just leave now because this is terrible. That's definitely a thing. And it works kind of opposite for males and females in that regard.
If you guys like that clip from this episode of the Rena Malik MD podcast with Dr. Mike Israetel, make sure to check out the full episode right here.